Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here to chat Crystal Palace 0, Leeds United 0 with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, Jason Booker. I can see some comments coming in thick and fast. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. Smash a like on the video. Get subscribed to the channel. Another game where officiating is going to take the spotlight somewhat. Lots to discuss. I come away from that game with a bitter taste in my mouth, I think. We have to remember it's a valuable point, all things considered. I thought Crystal Palace were absolutely terrible today. You could see it was a bit of a mishmash team that they'd put out. I don't recall them having a shot on target, I don't think. They barely troubled Darlow all game. We still had the better chances, I think, even when we were a man down. We still had a couple of goes at it. And I think if we'd have still had 11 men on the pitch second half, we may have been able to get 3 points. We obviously have a massive, massive opportunity with the penalty to go 1-up. It doesn't happen. Another game we've not scored a goal in. My head's kind of all over the shop with that one, Jay, because it's, on the face of it, you look at it at a point away from home. I just had bad vibes about this game all week, but it's different. It's not turned out even quite the way that I thought it was going to be. If anything, I thought, we'll probably throw in a bit of a stinker of a performance, but it wasn't really that. It was just the circumstances of the game and things going against us. And 20 minutes after full time now? I mean, Jay, where's your head at? I mean, are you happy we got the point? Are you just frustrated with the refereeing? I mean, where are you at with this?
Yeah, so frustrated. My head's a little bit all over the place with it. I've not this season been as angry as I have been during this game, and it sometimes doesn't help when we're going in and out of the group and you're getting other fans wading in on stuff, and we're going to have plenty to speak about. I wish I didn't have to come on here and speak about the officials for 45 minutes. I really do. But it's every single week. And in the last 3 weeks, Man City, Sunderland, and today, we've lost a minimum of 3 points. A minimum of 3 points in decisions that are ludicrous. They're not just little bits of bad decisions. They're just horrific officiating. And, we'll get into the absolute nitty gritty of what I think about that decision today, the Gabby specifically decision. Don't even want to kind of spend too much time speaking about the Calvert-Lewin penalty, because I think obviously it's a penalty and it's a stone waller. There's no ifs or buts on it. He misses a penalty. I think we go into the second half at 0-0 with 11 men. I think we could come out and win that game. I genuinely think we still win the game. I think we were better than them. We were creating the better of the chances. And the reality is that we'd have had a fair chance at winning that game in the second half. Instead, we have to set out in such a way that basically holds them at bay. And we did that really, really well. And we can talk about that as well, because I think the players deserve a whole host of credit today. There were some really good performances in that second half. Starting the game, I didn't think we came out very well at all. I thought Pascal looked back to his shaky self, unfortunately. I thought he were really poor, really. I didn't really like the midfield that we set in with. I didn't think Brendan played particularly well in that area of the pitch. I thought we were far too easily conceding possession, but we were then winning the ball further up the pitch, which was then advancing us up there. So that there was method to what we were doing. Gabby didn't get at Brendan Johnson well enough, I didn't think. I thought that were going to be a real key area, and we'll talk about him. He's going to come up quite a few times as well, Brendan Johnson. But yeah, we did build into that first half quite well. first 20 minutes were shaky, but the second 20 minutes were all right, and we looked like the team more likely to score. And as you said, Caldalo had nothing to do throughout the whole of the game, really. So, yeah, I'm bouncing around all over the place, mate, but I'm just finding myself. I wanted to turn it off at half time. I'll be honest with you.
I were exactly the same. I was like, I'm so enraged with it and so fed up with it. I just can't even, because I just thought, oh, Palace will win it second half, or because you think the numerical advantage, it's just not fair. It's just not right.
It's because you then have to watch the game, handicapped. Yeah. Like you're no longer like if Leeds had have ended up down to 10 men because we deserved to be down to 10 men, even if it had been a slightly contentious decision, where another fan's capable of saying to me, look, it's a foul because of this, or it's a second yellow card because of this, or whatever. That's not the case. Yeah. It was pure cheating from a Crystal Palace perspective, compounded by inefficient officiating. The referee was wanting, for whatever reason, to try and make a statement in that moment. It was pure emotion. It was nothing to do with the foul. It wouldn't have mattered who had committed that challenge from Leeds, not from Crystal Palace, because there's an argument to say that it was actually a foul the other way. It wasn't even a foul. Yeah. And he couldn't wait to just get the yellow card out and book him. But the second, you see it on his face, the second he realises that he's already booked Gabby, he thinks, no way, I'm going to have to.
He just stood there frozen, doesn't it? He stood there and you can just see the wheels in his head, and he's, obviously Palace players are screaming at him.
He's genuinely thinking, Browney, about can he revoke the yellow card. He is. That's what he's doing, which tells you it's a terrible, terrible decision. I am very much in the camp of there shouldn't be this kind of different ceiling for a second yellow card. I think if it's a yellow card, it's a yellow card, whether it's the first or the second. And if it's a second, you get sent off. It's as simple as that. This isn't even a foul. It's certainly not in any world a yellow card. Go and have a look at what, deciphers a yellow card in the handbook if you want, but it's not. And he knows that, but he makes the decision to get the yellow card out for a different ulterior motive. He does it for either trying to stamp authority on the game, or playing to the crowd, or giving one to Palace because they'd asked for a few in a row. There was something more to it than it just being, I think that's a yellow card worthy challenge, so I'm going to give him a yellow card. That's not what happened, and that's why I was so enraged. And it makes experiencing watching the games just unbearable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know we're going to jump around this, and we will come to your comments, so please stay with us, because I just need to kind of get this off my chest a little. I'll feel a little bit better. If you're going to officiate the game like that, Brownie, then let's see that officiating continue through to the second half and through to both teams. The Brennan Johnson second yellow and third yellow, by the way, because there was one that he ignored like about 5 or 10 minutes in. There was his yellow card that he then got, and the third and very clearly obvious one on James Justin. It's unacceptable, because that's a second yellow.
Crazy.
It's as simple as that. It's not a second yellow because he sent Gabby off. It's just a second yellow. So how is he unable to make that decision, Brownie? He's not got the stomach for making that decision in front of the Crystal Palace fan base. That's it. It's as simple as that. And I can't. Like, what are we even doing?
No, sorry. No, 100%. I mean, Brennan Johnson. I mean, the first Gabby yellow, Brennan Johnson does the exact same thing a few minutes later, doesn't get booked. So straight away off the bat, says it all. And then, like you've explained about Gabby getting sent off, and then Brennan Johnson second half, a couple of times. He could have been sent off twice today for me. He could have been sent off twice today, twice over. And like you say, there's no standard here. It's all over the place. It's clearly someone who's, like you say, playing to the gallery, and you see this a lot, these cheap yellow cards that referees dish out when players don't have any bookings. That's what it is. He's clearly thinking Gabby hasn't, he's forgotten, because he's just so incompetent and he can't handle the pressure or the environment that he's completely forgotten. And he's giving one of those cheap yellow cards that referees do, like you say, to quell the crowd. They've been asking for a couple of fouls, they're not given. It's all that stuff that's made him give him another yellow card. And then it's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I booked him. Oh, right, sent off. But then look what you do to the game. Look what you do to the game. Aronson comes off, Metcha comes off. So basically, you're thinking, look, a draw at that point is the best we're going to get. Maybe we can, get a lucky breakaway, something like that. There's very little Leeds can do there, and it's that thing like you were saying. Then you just know it's so frustrating because you're going in that second half, you're basically backs against the wall. You're just going to be defending. Your likelihood of you actually winning now is so far reduced because of this. And
you're in a boxing match with one hand. You're in a boxing match with one hand.
Yeah,
it's insane. I just want to bring this comment up because I think there's a point with this one. So he didn't miss the be-all decision. Sarr dived and they tried to get be-all sent off. But I actually do think that this played a part in it.
Yeah.
I think them not booking be-all, I think he looked to, in his head, level up what Palace were expecting and then just gave the next Leeds player a yellow card regardless of what the decision was for. 100%. And it just so happened that he'd forgotten that he'd booked Gabby and then he was stuck in a position where he had to send him off. That's what I think. I think that's exactly what it was. It kind of ties in with what Skip's saying here, that he thinks he wouldn't have sent him off if he'd realised it'd be a second. I think that's absolutely without a doubt that it wouldn't, but that's got nothing to do with the fact that he would have then revoked what was a yellow card because it was a second yellow. That wasn't even in his thought process, and I haven't got a problem with that, as I said earlier, with showing a second yellow for what's deemed as a first yellow offence. I've not got a problem with that. I've got a problem with showing a yellow card unnecessarily because, as Browney was just saying, you're playing to the audience, you're playing to the crowd, and that's what it was. He got conned by the fans and by the Palace players. I mean, Sarr were diving all over the place. It was like a salmon. Honestly, I'm so enraged by the way that this has played out, and he's taken the shine. Excuse me, shine off the point, a little bit, because this is still going to be seen, I think, as a good point in overall. Forest. You could argue that Forest and West Ham, both home games yesterday and today, they only get 1 point in both of them games each, and we've matched that away in London. It's not the end of the world, especially in the circumstances. So, but yeah, let's just keep on talking about this until we're over with it, because it hopefully gets it out of all of us.
That idiot celebrating as well, didn't you, in the background? I mean, have you ever seen anything like that? By the way, the official Sky Sports Premier League tweeting out about it with a laugh emoji. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off. That's not something to get clout behind. It's ridiculous. He's acting like a 4-year-old kid. I'd be embarrassed if my kid acted like that, and he's 8.
He's celebrating the fact that he's conned the ref.
Yes.
He's celebrating the fact that they've conned the ref. And this is, there's a way bigger problem in all this. There is a way bigger problem at hand. I've seen somebody mention about what happened in the Arsenal game yesterday. We're seeing this in every single game. I mentioned in the last review that we did 2 separate diving situations. The Harry Maguire one, where the foot's about this far away from his head and he's falling over with the head injury, and then there were one on the keeper where there was no player within 3 yards of the keeper and he's throwing himself over and to waste time. This is a knock on these kind of situations. This dark arts conversation where we need to be more dark arts. No, I don't think so at all. We need to better officiate and govern dark arts. Absolutely. We need to stop it happening. We need to stop cheating happening. Don't get me wrong, things are going to slip through the net. I get it. I get that they're not going to be able to watch and see everything. But we should be, I forget the word of it now, but, circa after the event, we should be watching these games back, and when there's obvious cheating, we should be then giving them suspensions. We should be doing things to stop this happening. The VAR is watching all of the game, right? Anytime somebody's cheating, straight in referee's ear, so-and-so's just died, it's yellow card.
Yeah,
done.
Absolutely. Why is this so hard for them to implement? Why are they so resistant? And then they will go into the most minute thing about handballs, and nobody has an idea what handball is anymore, because they will look at it forensically. forensically, they will find or not find a handball like they did against us, Man City last week. They will find it or they won't find it. But with blatant cheating, it's like, it's the dark arts. And it's like, this is just not right. Punish it. It's the only way to stop it.
Like we'll spend 5 minutes governing an offside decision where you're like a nose hair offside, but then we won't spend 5 seconds letting the VAR official tell the referee that so and so's cheated and died.
Like that VAR today as well. Just because they say, it can't. What is the ruling? It can't kind of overturn it. If it's not a clear and obvious error. Well, that was a clear and obvious error. He doesn't even realise he's dishing out a second yellow card. Why can't VAR get in his ear and say, look, you need to just have a think about this, take a moment?
Well, whenever there's a red card,
we can't use VAR for that.
Yeah.
Why?
When you're right. Whenever there's a red card, in my opinion, whenever there's a game-changing decision like a red card, whether it's come from a second yellow or a straight red, it should be able to be dealt with by VAR. Bear in mind, if a yellow card is given for what VAR deems as a red card, VAR can upgrade it to a red card or get the referee to go and have a look. Yeah. So why wouldn't it be seen the same the other way? Exactly. There's no way that if he goes over and checks VAR that he doesn't see that that's not a yellow card, regardless of it being second. Right? Exactly. I don't know what we do with the officials, mate. I've made my point on it several times, and they're not paid enough, or they're not the right people are not enticed in by the right amount of money. You've got Bramall today on 30 grand a year, and we're expecting him to be able to deal with the pressure of refereeing top level footballers in, the best league in the world. They're not trained properly. No, we've not got ex-players anywhere near officiating, which is a big problem. We need. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry. I was going to say you've got, it's £1 billion TV contracts with the Premier League. You've got multi-millionaires on that pitch, but the guy who's officiating it, like you say, is 30 grand a year or something like that. It's like that doesn't make sense. It should be such high quality, and it feels so basic to say that, but it should be of the best standard. And it's just getting worse and worse. They've got to do something this summer. They've got to do something about this because it's just absolutely ridiculous.
It's not all about money either, but it's about attracting the right officials, the right quality of person, to be able to officiate these games. And unfortunately, with that comes money. And you can also then hold them more accountable, because in the nicest way possible, if I were the referee today and I'd made the decisions that I'd made and made the mistakes that I'd made for 30 grand a year, I'd be like, I'm not taking that much accountability. I'm not coming on an interview to talk about it. I'm not, what I mean? So I get it. They're being let down as well. But like every area of football is so highly paid, and our officials are literally, like, no disrespect to 30 grand a year jobs, it's still a decent living, right? Yeah. But like it's not in the
comparatively, it's ridiculous.
It's all over the place in comparison. I don't know what as an example, like professional boxing referees are paid, or the best sports in the world. What is the trajectory? I don't really know, but I'm sure that if you have the very, very best officials in the world at whatever sport, you can teach them to then go and do something in another sport. Like, Kalina's one of the best referees that we've ever had, right? I'm sure that if you'd have taught him the rules of rugby, it'd have been a great rugby referee, because it's more about the person than it is the rules. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So something needs to be done, mate. Something absolutely has to be done. We should not be coming on here and having 20 minutes of this show spoken about the officials. They should be out of sight. They shouldn't even be. The best testament you can make to a refereeing performance is when you don't have to speak about them.
Absolutely.
And we are speaking about them in wins, draws, losses, all games, every game we're speaking about the officials.
Crazy. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. As John says here, league needs to stop cheating. If a player simulates, there needs to be a lengthy ban to stop this. Nige, the FA/Premier League should try and attract ex-players to be refs like in cricket.
You see, the problem with that, Nige, is exactly what I'm just saying. In cricket, the gap between player, coach, and then official is much closer. Much closer, right? But let's just take, I don't know, Johnny Howson, right? Johnny Howson's ex-Leeds player, played for Middlesbrough, played for Norwich, had a good footballing career. His route to stay within football is to go into coaching, because the coaching element is probably a little bit more attractive from them because they're then on the pitch, right? But also the money that will be attached to him being the under-21s manager, like Aaron Lennon, and there's several within the system at Leeds now, is so much higher than it is going into officiating.
Yeah.
And officiating comes with so much more pressure and stress. So why would you, as an ex-player, go into officiating? You wouldn't.
You've also got this weird thing that VAR has done now, where it's like this comfort blanket almost to the referees as well. So you've kind of taken some of their confidence away from decisions, and then they feel like they're relying on VAR. It's a really bizarre psychological kind of thing.
I agree.
With referees, it's
never been worse, mate. It's never ever been worse. You take it back 20 years, and you take it back to the bunch of referees that we had, like Uriah Rennie and I forget, Mark Halsey was one. There was a bunch of pretty decent Premier League referees at the time, and they made mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna make mistakes, but most of the time, they officiated the games fairly. That was the biggest thing, and there were balance and consistency. Now they're second guessing themselves all the time as to whether they need to make this decision, as to then whether it's going to go to VAR, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. We have this semi-automated system now for offsides. That's fine. It's working much better. We have goal line technology, and I genuinely think then either go full in with VAR, and they can make overturns on everything. They are basically refereeing the game from the cameras and feeding information to the referee all the time. So yes, that's a yellow card. No, it's not. Constant dialogue. Or you keep it only for serious foul play.
Yeah. Get them to review penalty decisions or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. No, I
get rid of it all. I would get rid of it all.
Yeah, I would. Well, it's like, you celebrate, you score a goal now, you hold yourself back a little bit.
Yeah,
you hold yourself a little bit. Oh, it's a VAR's going to find something in the first phase of play. You're like, oh my God, like, what is this? What football is now? And look, I'm sure throughout the rest of the show, we're going to kind of swing back round to the officialdom, because it just kind of overshadows everything. But let's pull it back then, Jay. Starting lineup, obviously, I think, we were asking for changes, and Beal being the big one. I think you and I both were calling for Beal. I actually thought Beal was really shaky first half. Actually, I've got to say, first 25 minutes, I thought, wow, is this why we've not seen him starting regularly? And I thought Leeds looked shaky. That first 20 minutes, there was a nervousness. Decision making, like you say about Strauch, I thought Strauch, that was kind of Pascal at his worst, when he's loose on the ball and a bit chaotic. You had Darlow in the first few minutes where he nearly gets caught, and then slowly Leeds kind of started playing into it. And one thing I want to raise with you, I don't know what you think is. I mean, obviously it's 3 games since we've scored a goal. The last goal we scored against Villa in the league obviously was the stacked free kick, so a set piece. No open play goal there. And you look at Aronson had that glorious chance, and it almost feels like I put in the group, like Aronson had that purple patch a couple months ago, whenever it was, he scored against Man United, bagged a couple against Newcastle, and you thought, oh, he's kind of found another level of finishing or composure. And then the last few games, it just feels like it's gone back down to kind of what he does. And, again, a really poor finish, snatches at it. The biggest one, though, you get a penalty, and I thought DCL was doing that a really good job first half. He was doing all that DCL stuff that we love, and then you've got the opportunity to do it, and it's an awful penalty, I mean, you couldn't help but get Bamford flashbacks, from the state of it, and the pressure is cranked up now, Jay. Obviously, we were kind of nearly pulling away from the relegation zone before, and obviously the form isn't great at the minute, and all this kind of thing. The pressure's ramped up. I think somebody's mentioned that earlier in a comment, Skip, about it being more pressurized now, and it makes those really important moments even harder. And have we seen a little bit of that today? Have you got any concerns over maybe the lack of being able to put the ball in the back of that? I mean, you can't get a bigger opportunity than a penalty. And look, players miss penalties. We accept that. That's fine. But it just feels like we need that kind of thing to go for us, I think. And it does, does it concern you a little bit, that aspect of us as play at the minute?
Yeah, so there's a few things to kind of dissect with it, I'd say. So, we are one of the worst teams in the division, so we're not going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Like, we went through a period of time where we were scoring pretty frequently, and, I'd say that was against the trend of what it's like when you're down there. Brendan is what Brendan is, and I'm a big supporter of him, but composure-wise, he really, really struggles. He probably has our best chance outside of the penalty.
Yeah.
You're going to miss chances, like I've just said, when your players are of a lower quality. And, we then get a kind of an opportunity, which we've earned, to circumnavigate that in a penalty. And we miss it. You can't have a better chance, really, than from 12 yards out.
No.
I don't understand a world in which Calvert-Lewin takes a penalty when Metch's on the pitch, if I'm honest. And I get that Calvert-Lewin's the man. He's our focal point. He's our number 9. I get it. But Metcha is a far better penalty taker, as is Joe Perreault most of the time if he was on the pitch. Metcha has clearly shown how good he is from the spot. He's very composed. He's taken some real pressurised penalties this season as well. Calvert-Lewin's taken and scored some pressurised penalties for us too as well, by the way. But the graph that popped up before, and when he goes to his right, he scores, and when he goes to his left, he misses. And he went to his left and missed. Some players can't drag the ball back at that kind of accuracy in the same way that they can when they're opening the foot. So, look, yeah, you can miss a penalty, but I don't think you can then be too harsh on everyone else when you are missing a penalty. You know what I mean? So, am I concerned by it? I mean, you have to be slightly concerned, but we're still picking up and we're trending enough points. Forest played and didn't score again today either. West Ham scored from one chance out of one, and it's a header from a centre back. They're not creating and scoring loads of goals either. They're going to be without Somerville for a period of time. I don't know how many games that's now going to be, but still, they're attacking intent. We've got Spurs on the other channel here, and they're the same, and they can't defend. So we're just in and amongst a battle of which it looks like when you're down there. I still think we're gonna get enough on the board to kind of to get over the line. We miss Okafor from that perspective as well. He does give us just that little bit of va-va-voom, as Thierry would say. It gives us that little bit of extra sauce. So yeah, I just think I'm not overly concerned about anything. Skip mentioned the pressure. Look, but they feel pressure playing for Leeds United week in, week out, and this team has shown under pressure that they've actually kept it together pretty well. I don't think getting a point on the board today adds pressure to the Brentford game. I don't think it does anything. They know that they need to go and get the points from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I would argue, regardless of what we do, today, getting the points at home are going to be far easier than getting the points away. It only adds pressure because there's less games, but then because there's less games, there's less opportunities for oppositions to also claw the gap back. Today or this weekend in general, forgetting what Spurs do right now, is a result for Leeds United.
Yeah.
Hard to see it in the moment because of everything that's gone on this weekend, but we're another game week down without the gap decreasing. West Ham and Forest both played at home and we played away. Yes, West Ham were playing City, but City are on a bit of a flump. They should have really dropped points to us. They dropped points to Forest and they've dropped points to West Ham. So it's not and West Ham didn't deserve it and they had nothing. They had one chance. So I see this as a very, very small success this weekend.
Yeah. I think this is the annoying thing as well, because it leaves such a bitter taste in the mouth from the officialdom point of view. I'm kind of frustrated and annoyed with with the whole spectacle. But then you try to rationalise in your head, look, it's a point away from home, and like you say, we've matched West Ham's result. Forest have drawn as well, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine, and it keeps us ticking over. And I think obviously we've discussed, we've got, if you had to pick, remaining fixtures, you couldn't really ask for more in terms of what Leeds have got as well. You really couldn't. Burnley, Wolves at home, Brentford at home, even throwing Brighton at home, and then a terrible Spurs team in there as well. It's the thing. I mean, the thing is, Jay, with it, I mean, it's getting to crunch time. I would have loved to have just been a few points more out of it and get the monkey off your back, because that's puts pressure on the penalties and the decisions and the refereeing, and we'll probably miss. I wonder if it'll get overturned, Gabby's actually. I don't know what will happen.
It won't be. I don't think it'll be a suspension, will it? Because it was a second yellow.
I think you get one, don't you?
It might be one match. I don't know. It might depend on the circumstances. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, at the end of the day, we've got Burnley and Wolves still to come to Allen Road, and I know it's not just as easy as that. We've seen that Wolves have had an upturn. We've lost to Burnley away this season, but if you can't beat them 2 at home, or at worst take 4 points, you're not good enough to stay in the division anyway.
No.
And you deserve to finish 18th. Right now, I can't see a world in which we don't take 4 points out of them 2 games.
Yeah.
I know the formers in terms of the points. I still don't think the performances are that bad. No. I still think performance-wise we're playing all right. I believe going into them 2 games we'll have enough to get the points that we need. If we take 4 points out of them 2, that puts us on 36 before we get any other points out of any of the other games. Yeah. And that's going to be near enough, good enough. It is going to start slowing down because these, it's becoming harder and harder for teams to get points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's ridiculously hard, isn't it? It's absolutely stupid. I mean, anyone watching that West Ham game the other night, I mean, like you say, it was just their only chance, and they managed to do it, and they caught Man City at such a perfect time because Man City were completely off it as well. But yeah, I mean, Gav saying must win versus Brentford. I mean, look, we've talked about the must win game. It isn't because of the situation. We've got plenty of time.
I can't believe how many times I've said that to
Gav. No, exactly. But yeah, it's kind of the tail of the season almost. Like especially since obviously the turnaround at Man City, it's like we've been kind of, like you say, the performances are there, and we're kind of tagging along, but we just can't pull away. I mean, if we'd have had 3 points today, for example, which we could have, we
would have had
11 versus 11 that second half. We could have done it. We had more purpose about our play, and it's breathing space. 5 points to West Ham then, but it's just not that kind of season, is it? It's not. Sometimes it's just going to be a battle to the end.
Well, the reality is, Brownie, we're not good enough for that yet.
No.
I know it feels like we should have had X, Y, and Z points on the board, based on games and stuff. And there is a certain amount of that is the reality. We're Sunderland's fortunes away from being about 6th in league, I think. You know what I mean? Like we've actually played. But if you need a kind of a little bit of a comforter as to where we are, right, I just want to read you this. So Leeds United today are the first team Opta has on record since 03-04 to not face a single shot on target in a match where they played the second half with 10 men.
Wow. Blimey.
That's the first time in 23 years that a team hasn't faced a shot on target after being down to 10 men at half time. Now that tells you everything about what Daniel Farke's capable of, and it tells you everything about what this team's capable of from a defensive point of view. When we go on and on and on and on about, the way that Farke sets us up, and he's conservative and he's safety first and all the rest of it. This is why, because this is where our strengths are.
Yeah.
In that second half, we had a back 5 and then the 3. And arguably, we were the ones that were still looking to create the odd moment.
Yeah.
I still felt like the biggest threat came from Leeds, even though they had a lot of the ball. So we just have to maintain real belief and focus. We are very, very close now. I think we're 6 points. I don't even think it might even be that. I think it's going to be around 35, 36 personally, but even if it's 38, I don't think we're far off. We just have to keep sticking with it.
Yeah, keep grinding it out. Liverpool won up against Spurs, apparently. Speaking then, some individual performances, if we get to those, I mean, I've got to say my man of the match today, I'm looking at maybe between Stack, Roden. I thought Justin were excellent. I thought for me, that was just archetypal Roden today. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Headers, physicality, pace going back. Even popped up on that right wing position, put a beautiful cross in for Calvert-Lewin at one point as well. It really felt like, top Roden. I thought he was our best defender on the pitch today, Roden.
Without a shadow of a doubt, mate. I thought it was excellent, and for a large part of the first half, we were playing right wing, and he ended up being, contributing a fair bit going forward as well. He delivered a great cross to Calvert-Lewin. If it had been another 3 yards closer to goal, Calvert-Lewin had stuck that in back at net, and it was just because it came from so far away that he had to generate so much of the power. I thought it was excellent. His best performance in a long, long while, and probably had a lot to do with the fact that he was back in a partnership with Biol and Struijk in a position that he felt comfortable with, and it all felt a bit more balanced. I thought Pascal and Biol, both of them were very, very shaky early on, especially Pascal. Pascal looked like he had hot potato syndrome. He couldn't handle the ball at all. He were awful. And I thought, you mentioned James Justin and Anton Stack. I thought, I would give the man of the match to Joe Rodon because of the defensive resilience that we had to kind of put in there. But over the whole game, Anton Stack was unreal. I mean, the amount of ground that he covered, I'd love to go and have a look at the kilometres that he covered in that game, because he was everywhere. He was chasing everything. He was the only player that was capable of getting us some respite in terms of getting us out in that second half. He covered so, and he were pressing. He were brilliant, and defensively going forward, he was brilliant. And yeah, you mentioned James Justin. I thought he was sensational. I thought it was absolutely sensational. In the first half, he playing right wing back. I found that was a bit of a shock that Bogle was dropped. Bogle's such an attacking threat for us, and such a vital part. But I'm guessing Farke saw it as a bit more of a defensive option, given how more attacking we'd going forward in the other half of the pitch. Especially with the Rodon situation up the right wing, and Justin being able to cover in at centre back a little bit more probably. But in the second half, James Justin ended up being one of our biggest outlets. He was playing as like a left back come left forward. It was unbelievable the amount of work that he got through. And again, we've said it so many times this season, from £10 million signing as a backup option. Unbelievable.
Do you know, I was thinking this with Bogle actually, because I wanted Biol back in. I absolutely wanted Biol back in, and didn't mind that Bogle dropped out, because I think, I don't know if you notice this with players, but if a player has a standout moment, so Bogle against Chelsea has this unbelievable game and this unbelievable impact where he basically gets us the 2 goals. I thought it was so bad against Sunderland, and I thought it was pretty poor against Man City. But it's kind of in a lot of fans' minds, it's like, well, he has to play because he did this thing against Chelsea. Yeah, but he's been pretty poor since. I mean, he was terrible against Sunderland. So I was like, that made sense to me that Farke did that, because it was like, and I think Bogle is a bit up and down. Some people think Bogle's player of the season. I think he's excellent, and he's adapted back to the Premier League level very well, but I think he is up and down. I think Bogle is up and down. I think you get a good game, you get a great game, and you get a few poor games.
He's markedly improved.
Yes.
And I'd say from the first time that he was in the Premier League with Sheffield, he's improved immeasurably. Defensively, he's definitely come on a long way, but he definitely is up and down. And you know what you're getting a little bit more from James Justin. That's all it is. It's just a little bit more of a consistent baseline of performance rather than here or here. Jadon's probably a little bit better going forward, but I wouldn't say there's much in it. But Justin's far better defensively than Jadon is, so I can totally understand it. And James Justin deserves it. We want to encourage a meritocracy of playing for Leeds United. We want to see competition for places. We want to see the right players playing at the right time. That were a ballsy move, and it wasn't one that I expected, but I'd say it was a completely fair decision. I personally, I know most wouldn't have agreed with this. I didn't like Ilya Gruev not starting, and I think we saw why early on. I think we created a few more chances, but that left-hand side looked very, very, very shaky. He mops up so much for Pascal Struijk, so much. It makes Pascal Struijk a better player.
Yeah,
it makes him a better player because he's got less to do. So it's horses for courses. It is horses for courses. The midfield three for me today, I'm not sure on it, mate. I'm not sure on the Brendan in the midfield three. I've seen it work, but I've also seen it not work. He works better when he's got the space in that winger area to kind of be able to float in, and he just gets crowded out too much, does Brendan, in the midfield. He's got too much responsibility.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe with Brendan it's time to maybe, I'm not saying drop him, but maybe I don't know if it's getting a bit predictable with him in the team. I think he's been one of our standout players for me this season, and he will be so close. It feels almost like teams have really clamped down on him. Like he has been, and there's no doubt performance analysts are looking at Leeds' games from like the January, December period. Aronson, this is what you need to sort out with Aronson. It feels like he's definitely been clamped down on, and I just wonder if we need to give teams, something else to think about. That's why I thought Mecha coming in, it gives you something else, gives you something different. That midfield three, I know what you mean. I think I agree completely. I think the first 20 minutes you saw what you were missing without Gruev. In your mind, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because you look at the Sunderland game where we were stodgy as hell. I mean, we were really stodgy, but we know what Sunderland came up to do. But us having, not the most attacking team out there. But if we nick that game 1-0, it's a masterclass. And I think he probably goes into this game and tries to do the same thing. Where are you on the fence of, well, no, we need to have a bit more attacking impetus to try and win these games? Or is it better to be so defensively solid and try and nick a game, or hope that kind of, something breaks for you, or you can introduce players? It's a difficult line to take, isn't it, really?
Well, it is, but for me, Brownie, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, right? And I can say this from a place of being completely emotionless with regards to attachment to any of these players. When Noah Okafor's not available, we don't have that much quality in the attacking third.
No,
yet we do have a real solid base of really good defensively structured players that can see us through a game, that can keep a clean sheet, that can then nick a game later on. We've won games like that several times this season.
Yeah.
Everton at home and Fulham at home, straight off the bat, just come straight to my mind. You know what I mean? We win the game deep into the game 1-0 because we've kept ourselves into the game.
Yeah.
Yet, if we play Willie Gnonto, Dan James and Calvert-Lewin, we'd be massively open. We'd be conceding 2 or 3 goals, and then people are like, I don't know what he's doing at Premier League level. Like, it honestly, it drives me mad. So, like, I just think people think it's black and white. Put Willie Gnonto on the pitch, put Dan James on the pitch, and we will then create more chances and score more goals. It's not as simple as that. The quality that they've got is not of the level.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to answer your question, to win games for Leeds United, we need to be defensively resolute first and take teams into the game later and try and win the game in a different way without no Okafor. With Okafor in the team, you see, I think with Okafor, we've not seen the best of him yet, but we've seen enough of him to know what he's capable of. I think him in the first half today, I think we see 2 or 3 really glorious chances.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we scored 1 or maybe 2 of them, and the game looks different.
Yeah. He's a bit of a concern, though, isn't he? His injury record, and he's unreliable. It's completely unribeliable, isn't it, really? Yeah. I mean, and it's frustrating because it's the Sinisterra thing, isn't it, all over again, where we've got a player with a high ceiling. It's like, if only we could get him on the pitch. Because even when he comes back now, it's like, is he going to be a bit rusty? You try to get him back involved in like 8 games left. But I think you're right. I think the attack side of it, it is really difficult because we don't have the quality, Dan James, Gnonto, Piru, it's championshipy. It's very, very championshipy. And I think, Gabby up and down that left side, who's been magnificent, but sometimes he can look a bit headless chickeny because he's just like, he's
very direct.
Just like, get down there. He's not got that winger skill. He's not got that. And it's the same with Bogle when he plays on the other side. And I worry a little bit when that's your only attacking outlet because they are defenders. They are defenders who are trying to attack. So they're not going to be the most technically gifted. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Do you think next week then Brentford will kind of revert back maybe to a Gruev midfield, or what do you think his kind of summations will be from this one?
You mentioned Sinistera the other day, and he's a perfect example. Just on your point there with Okafor, he's exactly like that. I actually think he'll go for it. I think he might play this team again. Yeah. Depending on obviously the situation with Gabby. If Gabby's out, then Justin will play left wing back, and it'll be Bogle at right back, which I'll be all right with. I'm so impressed with James Justin this year. I think he's very capable of contributing enough, even at left wing back. So yeah, I have a feeling he might go again with this. I think he's seeing the need for maybe putting 3 points on the board as early as possible.
Yeah.
The fact that he did it today away at Palace tells me that it might be something that he thinks to do at home in the next game. We've got some really winnable games coming now, and I just see it as if we're good enough to stay up, which I do think we are. We'll pick the points up that we need throughout these games. This team are not soft. They're not a bottlers. They do really, they deal with the pressure. They deal with the situation as it is. I think we beat Brentford. Even though I know they're a good side, they've done well this season. I do think we beat them at home next week.
Yeah, it's there for us. And you talk about that higher caliber of player who. And Stack was that for me again today. Like you say, those moments where there's a couple of times where he just chipped the ball over, and it's like, those elite players or those players with a higher ceiling, they just have I don't know, the awareness and the extra time they create for themselves on the ball and the decision making. You can clearly see with Stack, he's above the rest of them or most of them.
Yeah,
when the ball arrives to him, he always kind of makes something happen with it. Vital that he stays fit for the rest of the season as well, because I know he's had a couple of injury niggles, so hopefully he'll be fine. Just getting into some comments from Farker. Let's have a look. Compliments to my players. Another day proved why I would trust my boys with my life. Can always count on them. Not flawless, but how we adapted to strange decisions. That mentality had more XG than 11-man team. If we had 11, we could have won that game in these circumstances. A priceless point, clean sheet, valuable point, edging closer to what we want to achieve. Not sure if words are needed because everyone in the stadium has the same view. Doubtful it was even a foul. He has forgotten this player was already on a yellow. Compares the situation with Johnson's fouls in the second half too. And he said the fourth official came to me and said both benches were emotional, complaining about the situation. They had to book Oliver and I because they couldn't identify who was the first to come off the bench. So a bit of a mess, really.
We'll be getting a letter of apology, won't we?
Oh yeah, standard.
The letter of apology will be coming. And there'll be so many. There could be about 5 from this one, if we're honest.
God, I know. I would love to just get to the end of one of these games where there's not something like this that we're talking about at the end of it, because frustratingly, it always seems to go against us as well. It's like it's not even kind of, this thing how it balances itself out and all this. I'm like, when? When is it balancing itself out?
We haven't had a dodgy decision go in our favour all season.
No.
We haven't had a single one. We've made the point a couple of times about Chelsea away being the only time that we've got a bit fortunate. And we did. We got fortunate that day. But that wasn't down to the officials. It was down to Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had nothing, and there's been several situations this season where we've been harshly done by decisions, and the way that the games ended up going. And in this last 3 weeks, it's felt really painful because we've had them back to back to back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Just before we kind of finish off, then look, we're still outside that relegation situation. We're in 15th. We'll be keeping a close eye on the Spurs game as well. I almost kind of don't want it to be a drubbing today, so they keep Tudor. I would really like to just keep him as long as possible in that position. But yeah, Jay, it's going to rumble on, my friend. It's going to rumble on, isn't it? We're going to be in this, I think, for at least a little while longer.
I was talking about this the other day, and the Opta stats have predicted that we will finish 4 points clear of the bottom 3, and on 42. And I think the Opta stats had West Ham predicted on 38, right? Which could be. I think it's a bit high, but it could be. It could be 38. It's not going to be far wrong, even if it is wrong, right? That tells me that up until game week 36 at best, maybe 37, we're going to be still within it. Yeah, it could even be 38. Yeah, so it's no surprise to me that we're still kind of moving on at this rate. And if we get to a point where we're not taking any points at all, then yeah, we can really, really get worried. But we're not doing that. We've lost back-to-back games. We've gone and got a point at Palace. It's still another point on the board. We're still over that points per game situation. We're on 32 after 30. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
That's right.
30, yeah.
And, West Ham, Forest. I personally think that West Ham and Forest players will be looking at this weekend. I mean, we missed a massive opportunity here. I think the happiest of the 3 camps will be Leeds. Yeah. We had an away game at Palace, down to 10 men after 45 minutes. Forest, especially at home at Fulham.
Yeah.
That's a really bad result today. Yeah. So and Spurs, they're probably going to lose away at Liverpool. They're in big trouble. They're in big trouble.
Yeah, they are. Massive trouble. Long may it continue. Just looking at all the red crosses next to their form, you can't believe it, can you? And we're still the only team above the 30-point threshold of that lot as well. Yeah. So hopefully it'll be okay. Just a couple of comments to finish on as well, Telly. Good point, but another wasted chance for 3 points. Fair or not, Gabby and Amps are always a hair from a red card. So today it came home to roost. Good show, lads. Thank you, mate. Is it Spurs Forest next weekend? Oh, lovely. And also, Villa badly need a win to beat West Ham. Villa are stinking the place out at the minute, aren't they, really? Good stuff. Okay, we'll leave it there then. Thank you very much for everyone who joined us and got involved. If you've not done so already, please do like the video, get your comments in and subscribe to the channel. Myself and Jay, we will be back to have a chat all things Leeds later in the week. There's the Monday show tomorrow as well with the lads, the round table. There's also Town Talk tonight as well. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Jay, thank you, mate.
Thank you, pal.
And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.